The UN calls for a push to cut greenhouse gas levels to avoid climate chaos. Global emissions must fall by 7.6% a year for the next decade to avoid a crisis, the report says. Countries must make, this is from the Guardian article, countries must make an unprecedented effort to cut their levels of greenhouse gases in the next decade to avoid climate chaos, the U.S. has warned, as it emerged that emissions hit a new high last year. Carbon dioxide emissions in 2018, also accounting for deforestation, rose to more than 55 gigatons and have risen by an average of 1.5 a year for the past decade. This is according to the UN Environmental Program. Global emissions must fall by 7.6% every year from now until 2030 to stay within the 1.5 Celsius ceiling on temperature rises that scientists say is necessary to avoid disastrous consequences. The only time in recent history when emissions have fallen in any country at a similar rate came during the collapse of the Soviet Union. During the financial crisis and recession, emissions in the US and Japan fell briefly by about 6%, but soon rebounded. However, technologies such as renewable energy and electric vehicles are now available and increasingly cheap. I don't know if I'd agree with that. I don't think electric vehicles are cheap yet. They should be, but anyway, which could enable deep cuts in carbon without jeopardizing economic growth. John Christensen of the Technical University of Denmark, a co-author of the report, told The Guardian the cuts in emissions now required were unprecedented. Postponing action could no longer be an option, said Inger Andersen, executive director of UNEP. Our collective failure to act early and hard on climate change means we must now deliver deep cuts to emissions over 7% each year if we break it down evenly over the next decade. This shows that countries simply cannot wait. Without such urgent action, the world's fate would be sealed within the next few years as carbon will rise to such a level as to make dangerous levels of warming inevitable. We need quick wins to reduce emissions as much as possible in 2020. Then stronger commitments under the Paris Agreement to kickstart the major transformations of economies and societies. We need to catch up on the years in which we procrastinated. And one of the things we need to do is we need to reel in the companies who are causing most of the environmental destruction. We need to reel in these companies. It needs to happen. Amazon needs to be held accountable. The oil and gas companies need to be held accountable and need to be forced to go into renewables or cease to exist. That's what needs to happen. We need to do something drastic to these companies. And an organization like the UN can lead the way on that. An organization like the United States, which basically it's not really a flub of words there. They really are an organization. And in a lot of ways, the United States is just one big corporation. But all right, let's see if there's anything more to this article here. Rana Adib, the executive secretary of the renewable energy think tank REN21, said fossil fuel-centered economies make it difficult for national governments to put climate concerns front and center, with the result that globally we are not on track to meet the Paris Agreement. This truth is hard to face. The emissions gap report shows the harsh reality. Countries collectively fail to stop growth in greenhouse gas emissions. We have the necessary means to pursue the energy transition. What we need is the political and institutional will to make the transition a reality. In short, we need to stand up to the corporations that are destroying our planet. The problem is they have all the money and they have all the power and they've bought our politicians. So that's what we're up against. And what's at stake here? Well, the future of humanity on this planet. Just a little thing. Just a little thing. Future of humanity. The future of our planet. That's what's at stake. No biggie. No biggie. So that's a new report from the UNEP, the UN Environmental Program. And I'm sure one of these weekends we'll get to it and we'll fix everything. All right.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and